Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Today is a good day. Oh, it's always a good day when the woke community turn on each other and start eating each other alive. Because no matter how much you try to pander to people, no matter how much you try to be inclusive and diverse, it's never enough. There's always something to complain about because victimhood trumps all. It's like top trumps, and it's just the one card that comes out and you can't do a thing about it. Oh, I used to love top trumps, by the way. Now, this comes from the Nerdist, and this exposes the author as somebody who has no true knowledge of Doctor Who whatsoever, because their whole argument, and I'll use that in inverted commas, is, of course, as you can see from the title, seen through a singular lens, and that lens is colour. Because that's all they want to do. And I looked up the author, and I came across their public Instagram, and I asked that nobody contact them, nobody get in touch. This isn't about that whatsoever. I disavow anyone who does. And their comment was just like, activist, queer AF, like taking a lot of selfies, bit of a narcissist. And they look about 5 years old. I mean, they're probably early 20s, but they look really, really young. And I just kind of thought, yeah, figures. So I don't want to, a big thank you to the person who sent this through to me. I don't know if you want your name mentioning, so I'll just keep stum unless you do. But thank you for sending this through. Let's go through it, shall we? Because as you know, I wasn't a fan of the Doctor Who Christmas special. I'm not a fan of Chibnall's Doctor Who. But I've been a Doctor Who fan for long enough to know about Doctor Who, which is something a lot more than this author. Doctor Who's 2021 special, Revolution of the Daleks, was a reasonably solid episode on the surface. The pacing is decent, Captain Jack's return is fantastic, and Ryan's exit, which sieged throughout season 12, plays out well. That's an opinion. And yet, the New Year special continues an incredibly troubling pattern of Doctor Who mishandling the practice of diverse casting. A decision which makes the episode itself ultimately unenjoyable. Well, I agree with you that the episode was unenjoyable, but immediately you expose yourself for knowing nothing about Doctor Who whatsoever. Doctor Who is one of these shows that's been around for nearly 60 years that has always had a very diverse cast. Always. But you see, up until recently, until that became the be-all and the end-all of the BBC, and also the be-all and the end-all of current millennials who only see things through the eyes of victimhood, it was never an issue. Never an issue. They were just there. They cast people of all different demographics in the show. And if you understand Doctor Who, then you'll know that unless you're within the Doctor's close-knit circle, there's a very good chance you might get yourself bumped off. You're what's known as the episode's cannon fodder, so that they can show there are stakes. There are things to be scared about. The alien threat is legitimate. And even the ultimate fate of most of the Doctor's companions isn't a happy one. Rose ended up in a parallel universe, locked away from the Doctor. She's now got a kind of a Doctor with her. Then, of course, Martha Jones fell in love with the Doctor, wasn't reciprocated. She left of her own accord. Donna had her mind wiped. Amy, well, after her husband was touched by a weeping angel, chose to share the same fate and get zapped back in a time-locked past so the Doctor couldn't help. Clara ended up ultimately being killed. Bill Potts got turned into a Cyberman. the fate of the companions for the Doctor isn't always a happy one either. But you see, the BBC are now going to be casting a lot more diverse roles because they have their new inclusion policy. And one thing that we have seen with Chibnall's run of Doctor Who is that he's been very keen, just like this current episode, series, I should say, of Star Trek Discovery, very keen to remove white males from the picture. So when you remove them, you have to fill that void with another diverse cast. And if that diverse casting requires that that person be bumped off, that's what they're there for. It's not a racial thing per se. It's a casting thing for the episode's canon fodder. Oh my God. In recent years, shows like Doctor Who have seen an uptick in diverse actors. Wrong! Doctor Who has always been exceedingly diverse. You don't know Doctor Who at all, by the sounds of it. Which is sometimes the result of colorblind casting. It's just something she heard. I looked it up. I laughed. I scoffed. I moved on. Some people see this as a progressive move. No. If there's been a slightly more of an uptick, as mentioned, it's because of the BBC's inclusion and diversity policy, which means they have to cast X amount of this and X amount of that, which is exceedingly bigoted, but that's the BBC in current day. They're not interested in the meritocracy, they're interested in box ticking and percentages. Percentages being made up of various demographics. The show's writing doesn't acknowledge the implications of the actor's race and how it informs the viewer's interpretive lens. That's because sometimes somebody is just a somebody and not a color. You want to view everything through the lens of color, and therefore that's why you'll always be an activist victim. Instead of actually looking at people for being people. This creates many racially charged missteps which can be harmful. No, it doesn't at all. It just creates things for you to be mad about because you're looking at it through the sensibility of colour. And that is it. That is it. You're mad, no one else is. How many complaints were there about that on the night? How many people called up and said, oh my God, you killed a black guy on Doctor Who? Nobody did. Because sometimes a person is just a person. And they fulfill a role that's given to them because they're an actor, darling. The latest egregious example of this is Revolution of the Doctor's character, Leo, played by Nathan Stewart Jarrett. Leo is a scientist who helps Jack Robertson, Chris Noth, and Joe Patterson, Harriet Walter, in their attempt to make Britain more secure by creating security drones in the image of the Daleks. Guess where she's going to go with this? Correct. You're already correct. A black man enthusiastically participating in the creation of a police state creates an immediate disconnect. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It might do for somebody, as I've already mentioned, that only wants to view things through the lens of colour. Some would call that a little bit racist. By the way, the person in question seems to be from mixed race. Just in case anyone wanted to know. In both the UK, where the drones are, and the US, where Robertson plans to go next, black folks just like Leo face persecution and violent deaths at the hands of police. Everyone has. Everyone does, in theory. Everybody does, in theory. You are citing very recent events. This episode was written and recorded before those events had even happened, by the way. And as we know, the media are very keen to report on certain things and not report on other things. You're very keen to play with statistics, but very keen to also ignore statistics, which contradict what you're trying to say and do. Why would the creation of machines which can be further weaponized against black people, not what, everybody? This is machines against everybody. And when the Daleks turned in the episode, they killed everybody. They didn't hunt down just black men. No, they killed black people. They killed women. They killed white people. This article is pathetic. It's no more than just somebody who wants to shit stir their activism. That's all you want to do. You don't give two fucking shits about Doctor Who. You, as we've seen from the fact that you can't get anything right about the show, it appears you don't have any knowledge of Doctor Who either. This is just another franchise for you to get your claws into. And I ain't got any love for Doctor Who right now because I think Chibnall's run's pathetic. And it's pathetic because it's pandering. Because the BBC now want to be seen as so woke. And yet what they do is they're just driving people away by being exceedingly partisan. As well as shitting all over the history of the show. That's what we're bothered about, not your petty, stupid, pathetically constructed arguments. Which are meaningless and nothing. Why would he want to harm people who look like him and are presumably a part of his community? This is the type of people. This is the Nerdist, folks. This is Geeks and Sundry. Yeah? Yeah. And Dave Cullen has his YouTube channel pulled down, and this kind of trash can get written. Fuck. You get the drift, folks. I've been going on for long enough, I think. You get the drift. It doesn't get any better. She goes on to say about when the Dalek was on his back, it was taking his voice away from him. Yeah, all the yada, yada, yada. He was cast to be killed by the Daleks. Just like the guy was cast at the beginning of the episode to be killed by the Daleks. Just like those extras in the street were cast to be killed by the Daleks. It was part of the story and had nothing to do with their race. Get back in, you box, you sad, pathetic person. Or I would advise, maybe sit down and watch some Doctor Who. Gain some knowledge of the show. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming links. They're in the description box down below. I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.